And without further ado, my guest today is Kevin D. Miller. Kevin, of course, actually Miller Puchalski, if you think about it. And he wrote about that in his book, The Heart of Steel, about his grandfather, Stanley. And, you were talking about this on the night that we had attacked the embassy and then they attacked us. We actually connected that night about the response we should give back to Iran.
Yeah.
And you were telling me you were in the process of getting a screenwriter for your big book, and now it's finally happened. Tell me about it.
Yes. No, we've been working on this. We've been working on converting Heart of Steel to Heart of Steel the movie. So in the process, my book was optioned with a production company, and a good friend of mine named Kevin Sizemore, a good actor, been in the business and been around the business quite a bit. Well, a good friend of his, we kind of hit him up. His name's Ty DeMartino. He's from he's back in the D.C. area. He's from the West Virginia area, and he's a pretty big name screenwriter. He's got a lot of awards. He's also a screenwriter. He's written plays and feature films. So we sent him the book and let him read the book and just say, hey, let us know what you think, and if you're on board with it, then let's go. Well, he loved the book. And he says, he goes, dude, I can't believe this is your first book, so hats off to you. And he goes, I think it's great, and I would love to write the screenplay. So anyway, long story short, we worked out a deal, for him to get started on the screenplay, and he's off and running and writing the screenplay. Probably take about 3 to 5 months to get that screenplay written.
Well, it's been a little bit since you've been with us, so give us a refresher. Also, I know that you mentioned this is the 100th anniversary of what went down in Youngstown, Ohio, right?
Yes, this is going to be the 100-year anniversary, more specifically on September 13th of this year. And it's actually Warren. It's outside of Warren. There's the farm, and the murder took place on a farm in a small township called Southington, which is just outside of Warren, Ohio. And close to Youngstown. Youngstown's up there, so it's all in the mix there. Very, very much in that area. So yeah, 100 years, man, unbelievable.
Wow. And so on the 100th anniversary, I guess it's fitting that this is going to become a movie or start processing, right?
Yeah, we're in the process of, and here's the thing, Alex, how it kind of works, because we're going to get the screenplay, and when we get the screenplay done, the beauty is we'll have a screenplay and a book to pitch to studios and financiers, which is gold. It's like. Go ahead.
Your book was so well written. Are you writing the screenplay, or are you going to hand that off to Kevin and his team?
No. The screenwriter, Ty DeMartino, is writing the screenplay.
Okay.
He's writing a screenplay from my book, and so he's going to convert that. Writing a screenplay is like a whole different skill set than writing a book. And it's like I looked at it and I thought about doing it, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. But I could figure it out, but that's too much time involved in, and you really want somebody with a name attached to that screenplay when you start pitching it, because guys want to invest $1 million or something. They want to see kind of a name on there, and so.
Well, I got to ask you this. So Emma May is a blonde, right? That's who she was?
Emma May was a brunette. Her hair turned white at a very young age. I mean, the Irish in her, she had silver hair, actually, turned white. But yeah, when she was young, she was actually had auburn color hair. Mm-hmm.
And so any actresses that you're thinking of that could be her in the role, as well as your grandfather, who are you thinking of for your grandfather?
Well, right now, and I've got 2 roles filled, and the reason is I've got 2 daughters who are SAG actors, professional actors here in Hollywood that are just the right ages. So Emma May, I'm going to, I've kind of wrote that role with my daughter Emily in mind. She just turned 18. She's tall, she's thin, she's got the brunette hair, and she's got the sassiness of Emma May. She's got the sarcasm and the sassiness of Emma May. My daughter Gracie, who's 13, will play the role of Sophie, Stanley's older sister. She's kind of has that heart. She's got that big heart, that Sophie has. So those 2 roles are set. My great grandfather, or my grandfather, we haven't decided yet, and we really like to get a named actor, a young, actor who's got a name. It depends on the budget. That kind of dictates everything. If we get a big enough budget, we can get a couple, named actors in there, get a bigger director and that sort of thing. So,
Well, Kevin, I gotta be honest. It's great that you're tapping into the Hollywood scene to get this done. I mean, let's be honest. As a Trump supporter, I have to go there. Do you find that it would have been, if you didn't have a connection, do you find like it would have been harder because you're pro-Trump to get a Hollywood idea off of this?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely a pretty strong prejudice in Hollywood. Hollywood being as liberal as it is, I mean, there's a lot of young actors who don't have the clout, that kind of get blackballed. It kind of treats them that way, which is a sad thing. It's like what happened to free speech? What happened to respecting people's opinions, whether you agree with them or not? But it happens. It happens all the time.
So, but being that you are now in with Hollywood, you're not afraid to keep your views going and publishing them, right?
I'm not. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I've got to be true, and I've got to be an example to my daughters. That it's okay, man, to speak your mind and your beliefs and not be afraid. And I don't want to be a bad example to her by staying too quiet. I mean, you kind of got to be a little political. You kind of got to know when and where to pick your fights and such. But most everybody is decent when you're working with them, and nobody really talks politics on the set and stuff. Nobody's really interested in knowing who's what. And you just kind of avoid it a little bit if you're in a situation where you're on set or whatever. It's not something I jump into a big political conversation if I'm on set working or doing anything like that. But I'm not afraid to express my opinion if I'm asked.
Well, let me ask you this. I've asked you this a little bit before, but maybe there's different view now watching the Democrats and Biden versus Sanders. Yeah. I mean, what would your grandfather say about this whole thing? What was his political leaning?
My grandfather, at a younger age, I mean, he grew after the book, the time period in the book there, he went into the 30s. He was a union supporter. He was actually a union muscle. So, and he kind of explained that to like my father, because my father and him used to kind of argue about the unions and stuff, because my dad was a business owner, and he had some heartburn with unions and stuff. But my grandfather explained to him, he said it was a different era. There was a different time when he was fighting for the unions. You couldn't get up and go to the bathroom. They were literally sweatshops, and kids, and the unions at that time were necessary to to make the workplace a safe place and a fair place to work. So I think in his younger days he probably leaned more Democratic, but more conservative, probably more of like a blue dog Democrat.
Blue collar.
And I think, blue collar, yeah. And I think that's changed as he got older, a little bit. But he didn't really express his political opinions a lot. When I was a kid and talking to him and stuff, he didn't really talk too much about that.
It's interesting. Unions kind of are split. Like Trump had some in his back pocket because he's been a businessman, but a lot of unions also don't like him. So it's a very interesting mix we're seeing reaction-wise. And, I just think today's unions, though, are not what they were made for. They've become less of a let's prevent a Triangle Shirtwaist Factory disaster from happening to more of a, hey, how can we get political control and get into the, Washington? And that's kind of where I sour on the unions right now. Not the members. The members are good people. I just think some of them may not want to pay dues if they have to be political about it.
It's changed. Yeah, no, it's changed. It's definitely changed, Doc. You're right on with that. I mean, it's not what the unions originally were and were for. They've kind of changed or evolved over the years into something else, like so many institutions do,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you were also in the military. So, and by the way, Kevin D. Miller, talking with him, he's the author of Heart of Steel about his grandfather, Stanley Puchalski. And I just love that you had no idea until later in life that you were a Puchalski. That's a very fascinating story in and of itself.
Yeah, no, that was incredible to find out. We were shocked, to learn that my last name's really not Miller, to just wake up one day and find out it's a very Polish name, very Polish Puchalski. And it took me a while to pronounce that correctly, Alex. I had to actually consult some of the Polish Facebook groups that I joined to say, hey, please tell me how to pronounce this correctly, because I was pronouncing it Puchalski or Puchalski, and they said the C is silent. It's Puchalski. So, okay, so I've had to, kind of train myself to remember the C was silent and do that. But anyway, it was an interesting to learn that your name is that, and it was kind of shocking to find out. Now, I just wanted to know why, which is why I wrote the book. Mm-hmm.
And how is the book, aside from the screenplay, how's the book going? Because I know it just released in November, I think we talked the first time. So.
Yeah, I actually released it in August 10th of last year on Amazon. I did release it in November on Barnes & Noble, and it's been doing well. We're getting good sales. It's getting good press. I've talked quite a bit on talk radio and Channel 8 morning TV in San Diego. Right. And a couple places. Yeah, it's getting good. I actually talked to Donna Fiducia, who used to be on Fox News, her and her husband, and they had a great. They're ornery. They're really funny, and we had a good conversation with them and stuff. So it's getting a lot of attention. It's selling, very well. So I'm pretty happy with it so far. So far, so
good. And
good.
did I see something like there was a newsletter in Youngstown, Ohio, or a newspaper that covered it?
Yeah. Yeah, there was an author that contacted me and asked to do an article on in Youngstown. So cool. So yeah, in Youngstown for some reason a lot of people in Youngstown are buying my book. It's a hot. I mean, Ohio in itself is a real good target market, but for some reason Youngstown is just buying lots of books.
Well, because it's their town, and I think they want to know the history of the town. Another big thing is with the ancestry and the DNA and everything. Everybody now wants to know, maybe not just more than just their family identity, what the identity of the town was back then, and maybe what it was like, and I think the fact that you highlighted that town, I don't know how many people reside in it, but I'm sure to the hundreds there, it's resonating with them.
Yeah, no, it definitely resonates with them. I mean, that area of the country is a place we will go market as well. When we start getting closer to getting production for the movie, I mean, we will go back there and really market it up and build it up, in the Ohio, West Virginia, all that area back there.
And even your grandfather was in Chicago for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah. When he ran away from the orphanage, he hopped a train and he ended up in Chicago and working in a steel mill in there and just trying to save money. And then
Polish guy as well, a Polish family actually.
Yeah, he had help. I mean, he had help when he was there, and they kind of took him in and then kind of got him into some bootlegging to kind of make some extra money. And he was just willing to do whatever it took to get enough money to go back and rescue his siblings and take care of them. It's
funny. I was just thinking about the Prohibition area, because now here in New York we've just banned plastic bags, and I'm just waiting for the speakeasies of plastic bags,
There you go, exactly, man.
Here in New York, so I was just thinking about that area, because all the shops around here are no longer having plastic bags, and it's like,
oh my gosh,
I don't know, it's like they care less about people's safety and more about that, and that's just frustrating. Anyway,
it's insane. Mm-hmm.
So you have this thing, and then you're still being political. So I want to ask you about Super Tuesday. Did anybody know up until, outlets are reporting it? Not the mainstream outlets, by the way. Right. But did anybody really know that Trump did 3-4 times better than his precedent, previous incumbents? This is incredible what he did on Super Tuesday.
Yeah. No, it is. It's incredible. And no, it doesn't get reported. Just like everything else that he's done doesn't get reported. I mean, that's the strategy, the liberal media and stuff. They don't want to, tell everybody what's actually happening, because they'll, people are going to want to reelect him. And they already do, because people already know, whether they're telling them or not, people know, they just but yeah, I can't believe that they wouldn't, report that.
And you were in the military. Are your friends that you have in the military are they still pro-Trump, or what's the reaction like in that circle?
There's most of them. I would say most of them lean more conservative and to the right. Yeah. There's always the, folks that are,
Right.
are raised Democrat, and that's how they were raised, and that's how they believe. And that's okay. Like I said, I mean, I'm good with people's beliefs. I don't have to agree with you to respect your opinion,
Sure.
but I expect the same in return. That's kind of the heartburn I have with folks. But yeah, most of the military supports the president.
And we've seen that in videos where we go out to like the
Hmm.
Army Navy game and even
Yep.
the college football games, all these military,
Oh yeah.
you know, themed games. I mean, there's
Yep.
no doubt the South really honors the military at these
Mhm.
games, and they honor him when he walks in there.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
fascinating to watch, and it's more on the ground video that people have to see, because when
Hmm.
they don't see that, then they think Trump is what the media tells them they are. He isn't.
Exactly, and that's all they listen to, and that's kind of always my point, Alex. It's like when I get in discussion with somebody, I'm like, I don't want to hear, you repeat what you heard on the news on CNN,
Like,
or I said, tell me what you think. Go do the research yourself, and then let's come back and have a conversation. Get the facts.
and is there a percentage of change that you would say might people actually do that and then change their opinion of them? Or
I think sometimes there's a few, not everybody. Some people are so set in their ways that they don't
yeah.
care what you say. There's nothing you can say, that's going to change their mind or convince them. And that's sad because we learn by listening to others, And I don't claim, that all my opinions and stuff are right. I mean, I may be wrong on something, and someone, that really takes the time to learn the subject and can maybe convince me of some, to think a different way. That's how we learn.
That's how, and I always believe that's how our nation was built, on
Yeah,
debating, not
right.
what we're seeing now, but literal debate.
Literary
And
debate.
they
Right.
and they wouldn't scream over each other; they'd actually hear each other out, and then we formed a country that way.
Exactly.
That's just how it was made. But I've got to ask you because it's in the back of my mind. So you're in the military, and you really wanted to honor your grandfather while there, right? Like you felt his presence while you were in the military, right?
Yeah, no, I did. I did. And I visited him. The last time I saw my grandfather was when I was in the Air Force. And I was actually at a class at Wright-Patterson, Ohio. And and on the weekend, he flew me up there. He bought my airplane ticket up to the cabin where he's outside of Canton. And I spent that last weekend with him, and I did not know he had cancer at the time because he didn't complain, didn't say a word. And that's the kind of man he was. He wanted to hear about you. He'd sit there, Alex, and he would say, Alex, tell me about your life, man. What are you doing? What's going on? He wanted to know about you. He didn't want to talk about himself, and he
And,
truly, mhm,
and that's a very big part of the book
yeah,
because you would go back to how he would say, he told your what aunts and uncles because
yeah,
there's brothers and sisters, his brothers and sisters. Let's not ever talk about this. So that he was
yes,
very big about not looking inside, but just focusing
yes.
externally, right?
Right, he was. I mean, and in that era, I mean, it's the 1920s. I mean, you kind of protected your family. You kind of looked out for each other and didn't allow, the world to come in and judge. Every family has mistakes and every family has, drama and such. But you kind of, in those days, you kind of protected that, and that's what he did. Hmm.
Well, and when we first talked, you were very much when I asked you like, hey, what was it like talking about the story after you knew he didn't want to talk about it?
Yeah,
You did say you were a bit hesitant to do it, but I would have
yeah.
to say with the growth you've seen the book make into a screenplay, I have to believe that that doubt or that hesitance has gone away because you're feeling now that you were meant to do this, right? And to write this book.
I do. I think it's affected and touched enough lives that I feel that it kind of confirmed what I was the reason that I actually wrote it. I just felt I owed it to the man to tell his story because he wouldn't tell his own story, and to honor him, And I think it's touched people and it's inspired people, and that's my reward, really.
And this is a man, by the way, who told your uncle, your dad's brother, don't ever ask me about my life. If I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah. When he was on his deathbed, my uncle, my dad's younger brother, he's like, Pops, tell me about your life, and he just raised a finger and just said, don't ever ask me about my life. And that's all he would say. And he took all those secrets to the grave with him. And it took us a long time to find him out, to find out why.
Well, and I just think the reason why is he wanted to protect his family up until the
Yeah,
end, obviously. But
yeah,
also, it just seems like there was a pride he had in the work, and he didn't want, maybe he just didn't want to talk about it.
yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. And he wanted to focus on family and taking care of his family, and that's what he did, and working hard and all the positive things, and just not focus on the negative, and just protect his family and his family name. Hmm.
And you have a family I see all over Instagram doing big things
Oh
and good
yeah,
things. Your dad, he actually was very part in the beginning of the book. He wrote about this. It's like your forward, if I'm not mistaken. So what's
yes.
he thinking about having his dad about to be on the big screen? What's he thinking?
He actually, I think he's loving it, Alex. I think he's loving every bit of this. I mean, when I was able to hand him a copy of the book and autograph, I mean, he'll tell everybody. He don't care, if you listen or not. I mean, he's telling everybody about the story, about his dad. I think he's very proud and he's very thrilled, and he's thrilled, that the movie, is coming out. And
Yeah.
he's like, I just want to live long enough to see the movie. He's going to be
Wow, how old
87
is
years old next week.
87? Wow.
87 on March 12th. He'll be, yeah.
Is
So
he
he's like,
alive? He's in good
he's in
health?
good shape too, Alex. I mean, he's going to be around because he's mind is all there, and he's in great shape. And for 87 years old, man, I mean, he's healthier than a lot of 60-year-olds I've seen. So
And that's something. And
yeah,
I guess that's just a generation thing. I don't know. But
yeah,
when they're born in the 40s, 30s, they have this will about them to keep going no matter what they're dealt with.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he
So,
kind of passes down.
so I'm glad to hear that he's excited about this. And what about your kids and family? What are they thinking as they're about to get this on the big screen with you?
I think they're excited. I think, I mean, my daughters are all, obviously very excited because they're going to get to play roles, in this film and play their relatives, which is kind of cool, and to have them acting together. But all the siblings, I think, are excited. I mean, everybody's, real excited about the story and the prospect of the movie. And, my little grandkids are like, oh, Grandpa, can I have a part in the movie? What part do I get? And I'm like, well, we have an orphanage, we got a lot of room. We're going to need a lot of kids, for that. And they're excited because they're little, but they're like, how's the book going, Grandpa? And they brag to their friends, my grandpa's an author, and it's really cool, man. I got to eat
That's
lunch
very
with
sweet.
yeah, with three of my grandkids. I went to school, and they introduced me to their friends, and they're very excited about it.
You say it's about to be a marathon? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a marathon because you don't know how much time it's going to take to actually pitch it and get somebody ready to fund it. We might find somebody who's ready to be in on it, but it may take time to put the funds together. And there's a lot of stuff involved there to get it greenlit. They call it, green lighting the project, because that's what you want to hear. You want to hear them say it's greenlit, because then production's about to start. So it could take a couple years. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to say how fast we can get this going. So.
Well, if there was an outlet that we can contribute to or listeners can, what would that be? Is there like a donate button now on the Heart of Steel website, or how can people?
There's not currently. We haven't doing that currently, but we're just we'll be looking for an investor or a studio who will be interested in giving us a budget to start production and start filming. So if there's anybody out there in your listeners that's a production studio or an investor that wants to invest in a good story and make a good movie, just contact us, and love to hear from you. But that's the next step. After the screenplay's in place, we'll take the screenplay and the book and we'll start pitching it out and see what kind of interest we get and see where it goes from there. We'll find somebody eventually. Somebody will come along because it's a good story. It's going to be a good screenplay. So we're very confident someone's going to come along and want to work with us. So
Kevin, really quickly, so the website that we can go to is
it is heartofsteelbook.com. Alex, it's got all my social media up there. It's got links to Amazon and Barnes & Noble to buy the book in ebook or paperback. And there's a lot of extra information on there about the story as well, pictures and all kinds of stuff that way, some videos. So it's heartofsteelbook.com.
And I want to ask you this because obviously, before we wrap up, it's a looming thing. We just declared state of emergency here in New York. Uh, but from a military aspect, what can we do to truly stop the spread of coronavirus? What are you guys trying to do when it comes to diseases and sicknesses and something as extreme as this?
In the military, well, they'll definitely, just enforce good sanitary habits, like they've been saying on the news a lot. Washing your hands thoroughly with soap and water. Try not to touch your face. Don't share food or drinks or anything. And so just basic common sense, the same as civilians would do. And just a comment, it's like, this coronavirus, it's a bad virus, but there's been much worse. The swine, the SARS, there's been many worse. And I think the media just is really kind of blowing this out of proportion. I think they're scaring people because the number of deaths, I mean, there's probably more cases of coronavirus than is being reported, which would put the number of deaths at a lower percentage. And then the people who are getting sick and dying from this are in their 80s typically, right. And they have respiratory problems and, and like any flu.
We have to remember that this is not something that people are quarantined, at the Empire State Building. They're literally separated from us, so we shouldn't be afraid.
People need to stop being afraid, and that's the thing. And that's one of the things the media loves to do is to create fear, and make it and politicize, something like this, which is sad. Because it's, like I said, it's a bad flu, but there's a lot of bad flus out there, and people die of the flu all the time as well, too, just the normal flu viruses. And they're usually older people, and older people who have, suffer from COPD or other respiratory problems are ones really having difficulty with this coronavirus. So I would say don't panic. Don't panic. If you get sick and you're healthy, just, quarantine yourself, stay home, have good practices, keep your house sanitary and such, and you'll be fine. If you're a person who has respiratory problems, you just get to the hospital, get to a doc, see a doctor, and if you need to be quarantined, if you're test positive, then you're in a good place. You're in a hospital. They're gonna
right.
take care of you.
That's right. Well, Kevin, and prayers, and may God bless your father during this. I mean, we don't want anybody sick by it anyway, so just keep praying for everybody out there anyhow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Kevin, thanks so much for doing this and joining me today on the Sunday Pod, and we will catch up very, very soon. I
always enjoy our conversations, Alex, and I appreciate you inviting me on the show. Thank you so much.
You got it. I'm Alex Garrett. This is the Sunday Pod. We'll talk to you soon.